April 7th, 2020, I made a video talking about the possibility of us getting a Spirits of Eorview collaboration. Within that video, I talked about the possibility of Caleb wanting to do this novel collaboration next due to the fact that Comfy World was nearing its end. And lo and behold, a few months later, September 27th, we had the Bunker livestream where the Spirits of Eorview collaboration was confirmed.
Promo?
Wait, what? No way! Oh, wait. For some reason, I thought they were about to reveal a character. Wait, what? And even though I didn't know much about the characters, I was still very excited for this collaboration since it was bringing a new, fresh set of characters to the game Bleach Brave Souls. And here we are, 2 years later, those characters have now been added, and Spirits of Eorview is officially done.
Keep in mind the collaboration is still going to be going on for a few more banners. We still have 5 more Beyond Bankai captains to actually get, but as far as the actual novel characters do go, the 7 characters that we did get are now officially all out.
So I guess to celebrate the end of Spirits of Eorview, I want to have a look back, a retrospective you could say, on all of the characters, the last 3 rounds, and talk about, was this collaboration worth the wait? Did Caleb do a good job with these characters? Did they do a good job with this collaboration? Let's find out within this video with a quick retrospective on the Spirits of Eorview collaboration. But before we do, here's a quick word from our sponsor. Listen up, gamers. This video is sponsored by PUBG Mobile. Now, if you've been living under a rock and you aren't already aware, PUBG Mobile is one of the most popular free-to-play battle royale games that you can experience on your phone, along with the other 50 million active players daily. And with more than 1 billion downloads, PUBG Mobile is the perfect way to experience a battle royale game on your phone. Whether you want to play by yourself, with your friend, or with your boys, you can all do that for free. Now, one of the new ways PUBG Mobile is spicing up their game is adding the new game mode, Ancient Secret Arise, which is a time-limited game mode that's only available from the 11th of July all the way to the 12th of September. The Secret Arise game mode is available on 3 maps, Erangel, Miramar, and also Livik. And within this game mode, it comes with a lot of new features that are sure to spice up the game. For example, there is a massive giant, sand giant, traveling around the map, who also holds a few secrets if you can get to his back. A bunch of temples are spawned around the map, the Emperor Temple, where if you do defeat the Pharaoh, you can also get more surprises, and of course, there are also ruins. The Scarab and Jackal ruins, where you can actually solve puzzles with your friends, fight mummy warriors, the Guardian Beasts, and then again get more treasure. And that's only a handful of features that you will see by playing this limited time game mode. And you know what, if that doesn't even excite you, this might. PUBG Mobile also does do a lot of collaborations with many other popular IPs such as Dragon Ball Super, Baby Shark, Evangelion, Jujutsu Kaisen, The Boys, and even popular brands such as Lamborghini, Tesla, for example. And all these collaborations will allow you to deck out your character and customize it the way you want to. So if this does excite you and you want to join the battlefield and play PUBG Mobile, you can do that for free by using my link in the description below. So one thing we need to get out of the way straight away is the way Caleb released these novel characters. In comparison to Comfy World, they did it a lot differently. In Comfy World, as far as the first 4 rounds did go with the Beyond Resurrection characters, they actually mixed in novel characters with the event original Beyond Resurrection characters. For example, round 1 of Comfy World had Grimmjow, Hikone, and also Neliel, where round 4 had Tokinada, Hannibal, and also Baragon. In this collaboration, we didn't get that. There was no mixing of the characters. There's 2 separate Safui banners. There's the Spirits of Eorview with the novel characters, and then there's the Untold Stories with the Beyond Bankai captains. And in my opinion, I think that's probably the best thing to actually do. Now, you could make the case that if they mix some characters with the actual captains, it could have made certain banners hype. For example, if round 1 was Don Kanoji and Bakaro alongside, let's say, Yamamoto and also Shinsui, then it might have been a good banner. But what we are seeing here with this particular collaboration is that Caleb are setting up their own storyline with their Untold Stories event, and I think fusing the characters wouldn't have really been the smartest thing to do. So I think in hindsight, separating the actual Nova characters to the Beyond Bankai Untold Stories characters was actually, again, the right choice in my opinion. Now, in addition to that, round 1 started off with Don Kanoji, with Bakaro, a 2-in-1 character, and also Uryu. Now, this brought a lot of disappointment, and in my opinion, unjustified disappointment. A lot of people were comparing this banner to Farmfield round 1 and also Thousand Year Blood War round 1, and was very disappointed in the character choicing. I think a lot of people were expecting Caleb to go all out with this particular first round and give us characters like Azashiro, Kenpachi, or Kurashiki. But instead, what we ended up getting was two of the more unpopular characters of this collab, Don Kanoji and also Uryu. At the same time, some people were expecting a character like Bakaro to be their own character, but instead they got grouped in with Don Kanoji, making him essentially a 2-in-1 character. And because of that, it did actually make Don Kanoji technically a better character, since he does come with two killers, Hollow and also a Ranka killer. Now, the character itself on release also again kind of brought a lot of disappointment due to the fact that he wasn't really that overpowered. In my opinion, I was defending this character with my life, as I thought the character wasn't as bad as people were making him out to be. I wasn't saying he was like an amazing character, but he definitely did have some value at the time that other characters just simply didn't have. And in my opinion, that made him a pretty good character. So looking at the actual character, Don Kanoji is a mind no affiliation character since it is 2-in-1. It is a human paired with an Aranka. His killers were Hollow and also Aranka because again, 2-in-1 characters, double killer. And it came with a few nice set of skills. For example, he had an increased chance of inflicting stat ailments against both Hollow and also Aranka enemies. At the time being, having a Disable skill and increased chance of inflicting a stat ailment against any type of enemy was very rare, and having it on two killers made him really valuable in my opinion, especially because Inheritance Trials was just recently introduced. In addition to that, he also did have a Shockwave SA2 alongside a debuff Soul Bomb, which made him also really good in epic rates. So overall, I think at the time being, he was a pretty decent character, especially because of how usable he was. However, again, because it was a Don Kanoji, and because he didn't really have the best strong attack 1 and 2, it made him a very lackluster character. He could have been significantly better had he been given a better strong attack kit, and that ultimately again added more disappointment to this banner when people weren't already really excited for these two characters. So even though Don Kanoji had some really appealing aspects about him, for the average player, there wasn't really much of a reason to go for him. Luckily though, Don Kanoji comes with some really cool visuals that are connected to the novel that I think make him one of my personal favorites in the entire game. Just to give a few examples why, the visuals of him being in his car, his idle pose, the entire character is literally him driving around in his pink car, which he calls Jeanne d'Arc. Within the entire novel, Don Kanoji does spend a lot of time in this car, and that's actually how he gets away from a lot of the fights that he is actually in. Since he is, again, only a human character, and there's a lot going on in the final part of the novels, with Ceros being thrown around, Azashiro having attack helicopters, a lot of the time Don Kanoji is seen in this novel is spent in the car, and I thought it was a really cool touch actually making this character playable in his car. And at the same time, him being paired to Don Kanoji also makes complete and perfect sense, especially due to the Soul Bomb. His final attack, his biggest moment in the entire novel, is only possible due to the teamwork of him and also the Bakaro. So while it does suck that the Bakaro themselves didn't get their own character, and Caleb definitely could have done some fun and unique things with those characters, it also makes perfect sense why those two characters were put together, because Don Kanoji can't do the attack that he does do without the help from Bakaro. But regardless of that, I think the visual of this particular character is really cool. Having Bakaro do the attacks, having Don Kanoji just having a lot of fun with this. I always find, even a year later, I always find myself having a lot of fun with this particular character. And then looking at the Soul Bomb, the Soul Bomb is absolutely beautiful. Again, referencing his final attack against Azashiro. Now in this case, the novel itself is a bit more gory, as Azashiro is actually really doing a number on Don Kanoji. But obviously what we will see throughout the entire collaboration is that these Soul Bombs are supposed to be a bit of fun. They aren't supposed to be serious, and because of that, we don't see a battle damage Don Kanoji. He's perfectly fine. He comes out the Garganta that the Bakaro did open up. He does his signature pose, and then what we can see is that we have two attacks going on. His first initial attack is actually him using his Spirit Stick with, if you actually look closely, nice little attention to detail, we actually have Kenpachi Zaraki's eye patch, which is one of the main reasons why Don Kanoji was actually able to attack Azashiro in the first place, since he did use the eye patch in combination with his Spirit Stick to zap the spiritual pressure out of Azashiro, so we can't dodge his attack. And then Don Kanoji does end the attack with his ultimate secret technique, Cannonball, and again, really cool attack. I absolutely adore this Soul Bomb, and I think Caleb did a really good job with this character in terms of the visuals. Now in hindsight, the character itself didn't really age the best. With having a somewhat mediocre strong attack 1 and 2, he is kind of forgettable, I will say. And it really didn't help that he came out right before the 6th anniversary, where power creep started to get a tad bit insane. Now, Don Kanoji, in my opinion, is just kind of a middle of the bunch characters, despite having some really good things about without him, he definitely did lack a tad bit due to his damage output and also the strong attacks that he was given. Yes, the strong attacks look cool. Yes, they make sense with the context of the character, but as an actual character, forgetting about the actual character itself, playable character, he's quite mediocre, and that's where most of the disappointment came from this particular Don Kanonji and also Picaro. Now, alongside Don Kanonji, we also did get a second character in this banner, which was a new version of Uryu. Now, Uryu in this case was a Technique human Quincy with the Holo Kill ability, and his unique gimmick was the fact that he also had an increased chance of inflicting stat elements, in this case only against speed attribute Holos, and he also was a Link Slot character. At the time of his release, he was the second Technique Link Slot character in the game, so there was some excitement regarding that because a lot of people were tired of using Calm-Field Kenpachi, and at the same time, Uryu himself was also pretty good in Inheritance Trials due to the fact that, again, he had that increased chance of inflicting stat elements. Like I mentioned with Don Kanonji, Inheritance Trials was only recently added, so a character like this being optimal in IZ and also IT was actually quite impressive. But again, a lot of disappointment came from the strong attacks that he did have, as he wasn't anything super OP. He was pretty good for the time, but nothing super special. And in regards to how Caleb adapted his character from the novel, I think they did a pretty good job. Now keep in mind, Uryu as a character doesn't do much in the entire novel. He does have his moments, sure, but for the most part, he's kind of a side character. And because of that, his biggest moment essentially is the fact that he can't fight within this novel because Azashiro steals his Gin Reiko Jakyu. Lucky for Uryu though, Roka does team up with the Karakura superheroes Don Kanonji and also Uryu, and actually has data backed up from her threads and is able to make a Gin Reiko Jakyu. And because of that, you'll see in the gameplay, we have a lot of just basic Quincy abilities, but the attacks themselves look really cool, and in my opinion, still to this day, is one of the more visually impressive Uryus, just due to the fact that we have the Quincy abilities matched with Roka's golden threads. So we have golden, blue arrows, and I think they look really impressive. So given the fact that Caleb didn't have much to do with this particular character, I think visually they made a pretty solid character. And that's essentially all I have to say in regards to Spirits Arc-Review Round 1. So overall, in my opinion, this was the perfect start of the collaboration. The new OST alongside this particular banner, I think was the best way to start it. In hindsight, especially knowing the fact that they weren't mixing the Beyond Bankai captains with the actual novel characters, it made sense to start off with these two characters since it is the fun banner. It's the fun, enjoyable characters right before we get the more menacing triple Kenpachi banner and then the final fight that is Roka in CN. Getting this banner first, in my opinion, was the best thing to do. However, in terms of the community's response, people were one, disappointed due to the fact that it was only a 2-character banner. This is when that started to become a thing, but prior to this we were getting 3-character banners. 2, the characters themselves were nothing, I guess, special. People were expecting Beyond Bankai characters, and instead we ended up getting Don Kanonji, Picaro, and also Uryu. 3, some people were disappointed with the fact that Picaro was paired with Don Kanonji, but that mainly I would assume comes from the fact that people didn't read the novel at the time, since there is still no official way to read it. Having Don Kanonji, Picaro together, again, just makes perfect sense. And largely, the characters themselves were nothing super OP. People were expecting more. People were expecting some broken characters for the start of the Spirits Arc-Review collaboration. And due to them coming out right before the 6th anniversary, they eventually kind of became forgettable. So almost exactly 1 year later, in the meantime of getting a bunch of Beyond Bankai captains, Spirits Arc-Review was not a new thing at this point. We were on our 6th round. We finally got our next set of novel characters, that being the triple Kenpachi banner. They actually did it, and it was a very big moment in the community. Oh my god, no way! Oh, they look sick! Ah, yo, it's happening! I saw you guys, no way! Oh, Kenny, ah, yo! Oh, yo! Why does Kenny look sick for? Oh, the eye is beautiful! Oh my god! That's a third! Kaku Yoshiki, no way! Whoa, this ain't the anniversary! Oh my god! Oh! Oh, the artwork is insane! Freak, it's the triple Kenpachi banner! It's the triple Kenpachi banner! This banner itself brought a lot of excitement because these were a lot of the fan favorites. We finally got our first look at Kuryoshiki as a Shiro, and we also got a really cool Kenpachi Zaraki. Now keep in mind, at the time of the release of this particular banner, 2-character banners were still the norm, so having a 3-character banner was not only exciting, but having a 3-character banner that consists of 3 Kenpachis was very, very exciting. This got a lot of people back into the game, so let's talk about how the characters actually ended up. Now firstly, Kuryoshiki. Kurashiki, again, a lot of disappointment came from this particular character due to the fact that he is a brave battle character. This has been a thing for the last, 3 years. Anytime any fan favorite becomes a brave battle character, there is a lot of disappointment. Mainly due to the fact that the game mode itself isn't really that fun. People, of course, prefer to actually play with the character, and they prefer the character to be an SP character since you get to do a lot of things with those particular characters. Use them in epic raids, use them to find the point event, IZ, IT, anything you want to do. Preferably, if you have a favorite character, you want them to be an SP character. And Kenpachi Kurashiki wasn't that. He was a brave battle character, he wasn't given guard break, so essentially, he is a character that you're almost never going to use outside of brave battles. But I guess on the bright side, shortly after this character did get released, actually I believe right before this character did get released, KLab did make the announcement that they were going to be improving brave battles by making the rewards better and also giving us access to 5 times extreme co-op. So it was actually worth playing brave battles. It was worth summoning on this character because you want him, since you want to at least stay in third seat, to have access to that extreme co-op, have access to those better rewards, 125 extra orbs per month. Now when it came to how this character performed in brave battles, of course he was a very powerful character. This character continued to push the brave battle meta since he is a captain, and he also counters captains. He was a character designed to technically beat Kenpachi Zaraki in a 1v1 fight. He has Flurry +2, under 50% stamina, he takes 50% less damage, and he also does have Ignore Invincibility, Ignore Last Ditch Survival, and also gets 30% more normal attack damage again when under 50% stamina. So he brought a few new mechanics in brave battles. By getting under 50% stamina, he becomes significantly more tankier, and he also starts to hit very, very hard. He was also pushing the captain meta in brave battles, and also most importantly, a non-invincible character that can go through invincibility. So he was the second of his kind, and since then we've now got some more characters like that has overall made the health and meta of brave battle a lot more better, healthy in my opinion. So I feel like this character addition to the game was really, really good. But as I mentioned at the start, a lot of the disappointment from this character came from the fact that he was a brave battle character. But if you read the novel, it kind of makes sense, and in my opinion, this was the only thing you could really do with this particular character, and I feel like they made a good choice making him a brave battle character. So let me explain why. If you read the novel, you would know that Kenpachi Kurashiki doesn't really do much, if at all. This character basically is just there so Azashiro can become a Kenpachi. That was essentially it. At the start of Volume 1, we get a flashback arc around 250 years prior to the events that are taking place in this particular novel. One, to get a bit more knowledge about Roka and also Azashiro, and in doing so, Kurashiki is this character that kind of connects both of their stories. Kurashiki is just fighting a bunch of hollows, and out of nowhere, Azashiro shows up to take the title of Kenpachi away from Kurashiki. They agree to fight, and before Kurashiki can even make a swing against Azashiro, Kurashiki goes down in one attack due to Azashiro using his Bankai. So Kurashiki doesn't even fight in the novel, and the only time he technically does fight is essentially in a 1v1 fight against Azashiro for the title of Kenpachi. So him being a brave battle character kind of just makes perfect sense, because that's what you kind of do if you are taking the Kenpachi title. You do a 1v1. In Brave Battle's case, it's a 3v3, but I think the way the character was set up in the novel, him being a Brave Battle character just makes perfect sense, especially because we don't know much about him. Sure, he does use his Shikai, they describe his Shikai, but his Shikai is only used to send his men away because they try to attack Azashiro. He doesn't even use his Shikai against Azashiro, but he does use it at one point, and because of that, we do see most of his abilities just him using his Shikai. Literally all of his attacks is just the Shikai attacking, right, besides his Nad String. Now, one thing I do want to point out is the fact that he does not use his Bankai whatsoever, and that obviously again brought a lot of disappointment to a certain extent. When talking about his character prior to his initial release, a lot of people talk about his broken Bankai, his forbidden Bankai, a Bankai that is so powerful that he can only use once every 6 months. If he uses Bankai, it summons a massive jaw from the ground that basically kills anything in its way besides the user itself. So because of that, he doesn't use his Bankai. He's forbidden to use his Bankai. He's not allowed to use it, and within the Spirits Arc Review novel, he does not use it. The only reason why we know about it is because it's mentioned offhandedly by Azashiro, saying that if he did use his Bankai, he would have won the fight. Kurashiki simply just doesn't use the Bankai, and that's why KLab is staying true to the character itself by not using the Bankai. He only used the Shikai, the only ability he essentially demonstrates in the actual novel. So overall, I feel like Kurashiki being a Brave Battle character made complete and perfect sense, since that's what he basically does in the novel, and the only only ability he does demonstrate in the novel once more is the fact that he does use his Shikai. So the fact that he didn't use his Bankai to me wasn't really that much of a deal breaker, and I feel like they adapted his character perfectly. And yeah, sure, it would have been nice if they made him an SP character. Don't get me wrong, if they made him a PV character, but I use this character every day in my Brave Battle teams. I like Brave Battles now because it has gotten better solely thanks to Kurashiki, so I think he was actually a very good addition to the game, and I don't mind the way they did him. Moving on to Azashiro. Now, Azashiro is a hot topic. Some people love this character, some people think he's great, some people think he's good, some people think he's overrated, and some people, for some reason, think this character is absolute trash. And it's mainly due to the strong attacks that he does have, but I think in overall package of this character, Caleb once more adapted this character perfectly, very similar to Kurashiki. So just to give a few examples, Azashiro's affiliation being Sniper Killer, despite him technically being a similar character to Tokinada, Tokinada was given no affiliation due to the fact that he doesn't see himself as a Sniper. He doesn't see himself part of the Gotei 13 essentially, and of course because of that, he was given a no affiliation. And despite Azashiro kind of playing the similar antagonistic role going against the Gotei 13, Azashiro always saw himself as a Sniper. He never wanted to cause harm against society. His ideals were unjust, but it was always for the sake of the Serite. And because of that, that is why they gave him a Sniper affiliation. In addition to that, his true killers, again because he is tied with Urozakura, he does have Hollow and also a Ranka killer. Now this isn't because Caleb wanted to give more of those particular killers. We have a lot of speed Hollow killers, and we didn't have that many Ranka killers for the speed attribute, which I think added to the appeal of this particular character. But the reason why he got those two killers is again because within the novel, he doesn't want to cause harm to Soribas and also humans. He wanted to only eradicate Hollows and also Rankas. So him getting those two kills again made perfect sense. Alongside that, his abilities in-game. Within the novel itself, Azashiro does demonstrate a lot of abilities that Caleb adapted very well in this particular character. For starters, his Nadstring, which can be described as a hurricane of needles that come out of nowhere, out of thin air, which is an attack that he uses to actually defeat and kill Kurashiki within their battle. His SA1 summoned a helicopter out of nowhere, which again, despite being not a great strong attack 1, meta-wise, practicality-wise, it's still a good strong attack, but in terms of the character's abilities, adapting to the game, this strong attack 1 makes perfect sense. It's him summoning a helicopter and raining bullets down from the entire sky. He uses that against both Kenpachi and also Cien. Alongside that, his SA2 and also SA3, we can see Azashiro summon a bunch of Gigai clones, which he uses to basically summon very powerful Kido attacks in a short amount of time. His SA3 is Sora and Sokatsu, which he does use again against Kenpachi, and then his Sword Bomb is Hado 96 Ito Kaso, which again looks absolutely stunning. I think he has one of the best Sword Bombs in the entire game, and at the same time, he also comes with complete stats immunity, a 50% chance to dodge Hollow and also Ranka enemies, and when you do dodge, you counterattack, dealing damage back to them. This referencing his Bankai ability, where he can have complete control over his surroundings. When his Bankai is in effect, he can basically teleport anywhere he wants to, as long as it's in its range. So again, as a fan of this particular character, I can't be disappointed. Yeah, sure, he could have been better, sure, he could have more damage, sure, he could have better strong attacks, but they adapted his character perfectly. His killers make sense, his affiliation makes sense, his abilities make sense, the visuals make sense, everything about this character just makes sense that I can't be disappointed. While it's true that some wanted him to be the next 6th anniversary Aizen, unfortunately he wasn't that, but I don't think it's a bad thing. I think he came out just fine, and again, he's now one of my favorites in the entire game. And then moving on to the final character of the banner, we have Kenpachi Zaraki. Now, Zaraki, in my opinion, is also kind of perfect. Again, in the actual novel itself, he doesn't demonstrate much, and that's why his gameplay, his kit, the visuals aren't anything super special. It's a very basic Kenpachi kit, but I feel like the character, the way they designed him here, is almost perfect. He is a power Sniper captain with the Sniper killer ability. In this case, they actually could have afforded to give him an Aranka killer, and I feel like that would have been the better case here, and it would have made more sense. While it is true that Kenpachi does fight Azashiro in the novel, and that is basically the final fight, one of the final fights, he does actually spend most of his time fighting Cien. So an Aranka killer here would have also made complete sense, but so does Sniper, so it could have went either way. Now, Kenpachi within this novel doesn't really show much here, very similar to someone someone like Uri, for example, he does have a lot of moments. He does spend a lot of time fighting, but his abilities aren't really described since he's basically just doing normal slashes. And that's why in the gameplay for this particular character, you have a very generic, not ugly looking, but generic Kenpachi strong attack kit. His strong attacks are great. The character itself is great. I think this character is perfect in my opinion with the way he kind of personifies the Kenpachi title. Every Kenpachi that we have been given so far, there's always been some problems, and we haven't really had a very powerful SP Kenpachi until this Kenpachi. Him having poise, him having the status reversal, him having a very high damage output. This character just doesn't care if he gets inflicted with status. He's always going to be dealing damage, and he deals a lot of damage. They gave him a great damage output, they gave him a great set of strong attacks, and visually, again, I think this character does look really cool. What I really like about this character, of course, is the soul bomb, since it does reference a particular scene in the novel where he does, recover straight from Adashiro's Itokaso, basically not even damaged. You get this really cool page in the novel where you can actually see Kubo's little sketch of what it would look like, where they actually reference that in the soul bomb, and then Kenpachi goes all out and basically makes a crack in the Garganta. It's a really cool character, and again, I think this perfectly personifies the Kenpachi character, and I think he was a great addition to the game. Despite us getting a Kenpachi 4 months prior, and despite him having the cooler visuals since it is an original character, I think this character stood out and made himself quite unique, despite again being very basic in terms of the visuals. But overall, that was basically round 6 of Spirits Arthur, and with the triple Kenpachi banner. I think the overall opinion on this particular banner was quite well received. A lot of people were actually really liking the fact they did a triple Kenpachi banner. There were a few problems. For starters, the banner itself was a 7-step banner. Outside of an anniversary, that's not something you really want to see in my opinion. Some people wasn't really that excited for Adashiro since he wasn't as good as people expected him to be for the most part. People were expecting a bit more from him. At the same time, he also was a tad bit similar to a character like Noel, and it didn't really make Adashiro feel unique too much. I think his biggest problem was being a speed character, but I don't mind the way he turned out. And then Kurashiki being a Brave Battle character, regardless of the reason, regardless of the fact that it does make sense, people wanted him to be an SP character, and in the end he ended up being a Brave Battle character. But regardless of those opinions, regardless of those facts even, I think the banner was quite well received. I think the banner was good. It was a good addition to the game, and I'm a fan of all 3 characters. I think I did a good job adapting these characters into the game, and I'd say they did it perfectly. And then that brings us to Spirits Arthur Overview round 7. Now, this banner, again, is kind of fresh on our minds. It is the most recent Spirits Arthur Overview banner. It only came out 11 days ago. So in terms of how good the characters are, that is yet to be seen. I mean, these characters could fall off quite quick, but I think both characters have a lot going for them that are going to make them a mainstay for quite a while. Firstly, starting with Rilka, a technique of Ronka with the Hollow Kill ability, and she has a very cool set of skills and strong attacks that make her a very powerful support. I recently uploaded my tier list video where I put her at the top of S, and I tempted to put an SS tier, and I might still move her up, and there's kind of a bit of a debate going on. Some people think she's trash, some people think she should stay in S tier, but then there's actually a lot of people at the same time that are rooting for her to be an SS tier. So she's kind of a decisive character for the most part, where not everyone can agree. Is she good? Is she bad? I think it really depends on if you actually have the character. Now, the reason for this is because Rilka doesn't have the best strong attack 1 and 2. SA1 is pretty much one of the worst strong attacks ones you can have in the game. SA2 is a tracking vortex, which is kind of slow to kill, and that's basically about it. That's the only bad thing about this particular Rilka. But other than that, she comes with a lot of abilities that make her really good. A 40% Berserker, 40% more strong attack damage when at full stamina, the SP boost, and also Frenzy +1. With the fact that she has a crawling vortex, she's able to easily keep that SP boost, and she is able to clear content just fine. She's immune to every status element. She has a heal for her entire team every time you move into another map, which kind of references the fact that she is a healer. She was a healer for a very long time, at least until she became the character she became in the actual novel. So Rilka has a lot going for her. She's a very supportive character, yet a pretty good offensive character that can clear content just fine, and people aren't giving her enough credit for that, right? Regardless of that though, how well did they actually adapt this character in the game? Well, very similar to Adashiro, like I mentioned, it has a lot of abilities demonstrated in the actual novel. Within the fight versus CN, she demonstrates most abilities here, and Caleb are easily able to use that and put it onto the character. And that's what we'll see within this character in the gameplay, is actually using a lot of abilities that is mentioned in the novel. For example, a Nadsring, SA1 and also SA2 is using abilities from Saruchi and also Dodoni. Her SA3 is using Luffy's tentacles. Alongside that, if you actually look closely, there's actually strings, her golden threads going around it to make it more of a defensive ability. So all 3 of her attacks that she does use, 4 attacks even, her Nadsring and all strong attacks, are all attacks that are referenced and talked about in the novel, so it makes perfect sense why they did that. That's a perfect adaptation in my opinion. And then a Sorbonne, of course, is the big final moment, her using Mugetsu. Now, within the novel, it is a tad bit different. She herself wields the Mugetsu. It's obviously a lot more gory too. As I mentioned with a character like Don Kannoji, he's beat up when he does his final attack. He's fighting for his life, but in the Sorbonne, it's kind of played off as a joke. It's a fun special, and that's perfectly fine. I don't think it's kind of censoring it. I just don't think it makes sense for the character to look normal, and then when you go into the Sorbonne, they are basically halfway from dying. Now, of course, it would have been more cool like that, but they played it safe by just making it a more heartfelt special. In this case, Roka, instead of wielding the Mugetsu herself, she makes it, and she makes a clone of Ichigo. She lets off a nice little smile, and then she, of course, uses the attack. And I think it's a good special. I think they kind of adapted Roka perfectly. Again, regardless of your opinion of the character's abilities and strong attacks and, skills, whether she's good or bad, that's not really the point. She is a great character. But in terms of adapting the character from the novel, again, I feel like Once More Cap just did a perfect job. Now, Sin is a character that, again, kind of doesn't demonstrate much, at least in his new form. This new form that we do see him in is taken from the fight with Roka, but like I mentioned, the fight with Roka is more so just to demonstrate Roka's abilities, and Cien doesn't really get to demonstrate much, and that's why when you see his abilities, he's just basically using Ceros for all his attacks. SA1, 2, and 3 is basically all Ceros, and his Soul Bomb is, again, more just Grand Race Ceros. This time he uses Frame. I think the character's visuals do look great. I think the voice actor did an amazing job. Same goes for every character we talked about in the past. And I feel like the visual, the aura, everything about this character again is also great. The character itself is a super Linkster character designed to be used in IT, and also has a very easy time inflicting status on it where he does do most of his damage. He is an interesting character for that aspect because he does damage from inflicting status augments. Other characters like Roka as the shield get their damage by inflicting status augments, and therefore they get that 80% SP boost, but in Cien's case, he does more damage to those lacerated and burn inflicted enemies, which he can do all of the attacks. So because that Cien is a character that gets better with other Ciens, and I think that's a really cool way to play this particular character. Essentially, considering the fact that he's a clone of Zayapro, him playing well with other Ciens, clones technically, kind of makes sense if you want to look like that. But regardless, given the fact that he doesn't demonstrate much in the actual novel in this particular form, again, I feel like Kara did another banging job. Now, one little fun fact, most of his quotes that he does actually say with all his strong attacks is actually taken from the fight with Kenpachi. Despite him never using that form against Kenpachi, he only uses it against Roka. All the stuff he says to basically Kenpachi. And with that, that's basically all I have to say in regards to the Past Spirits Arthur Edward Yu banners. Now, for the next couple minutes before we do end the video, I'm going to spend this time talking about some miscellaneous stuff. Firstly, the trailers all are great. The artwork, again, some of the best artwork in the entire game. I would say Azashiro and also Kurashiki. Many Kurashiki have some of the best art in the entire game, and it's absolutely breathtaking. The background for these Spirits of Arthur characters, the Karakura sky with the Gargantus in the back, is a really nice touch, and I don't think any other background in the entire game matches to how cool these Safui characters do actually look. Again, the trailers are great. All trailers give off a different vibe, which I really do like. The first banner, Don Kannoji and Uryu, it gives like a happy-go-lucky vibe. It's a fun vibe type of vibe, right? Because what you have here is Don Kannoji, Uryu, Bakaro. You have the Daybreak OST, which is one of my favorite OSTs in the entire game. I really love that first trailer. I think, again, it was a great introduction to the Spirits Arthur collaboration. The second trailer with the Kenpachis playing the Azashiro OST. While it isn't as climatic as it could have been, I still think the OST is great, and I feel like it's a great way to introduce the Kenpachis. I think it's the perfect OST, if anything, for the Kenpachi characters. And then the third trailer, obviously being Cien and Roka, the final fight, essentially, very monumental moment in the novel and a very emotional moment too. Having that OST, again, new OST just designed for these two particular characters, I think is really cool. Definitely does match the vibe, and the trailer itself ending off with Spirits Are Always With You, I thought was a really nice touch, especially considering that's how the novel does end. The novel ends with Roka and also Don Kannoji going on this journey. It only lasted a day, but Don Kannoji as a character, a charismatic character that he is, changes the way, and it allows Roka to become an actual person. And in the end, when Don Kannoji is trying to find Roka, Roka's threads connects with Don Kannoji, and she says, "Spirits are always with you." And ending the trailer on that, I think, was really emotional. It's very sweet, especially for those that are aware of this context, and I feel like this is the perfect way to to end the collaboration. And of course, lastly, we also did get the entire Spirits Off FFU novel in the game itself, obviously in their BBS story type of way, which I did upload an entire video, which I think lasts 4 hours. I do recommend you guys check that if you did make it to the end. It is a good video. I added some extra special effects to make it a bit more enjoyable, but I did go read the story in-game. I think it's serviceable. Of course, it doesn't beat actually reading the novel, but the novel itself isn't officially translated, and even the translated versions online are still kind of cliff notes and paragraphs of what actually happens. So there's no official way to actually read the full novel, and right now, in-game, BBS, it's the only way to read it, and again, I think it does do a serviceable job. It does let you get to know the characters, and you do get that satisfaction at the end when you do actually finish the novel. So I thought they did a good job. They also colored in a couple pages from the actual novel. These 3 pages, my favorite, of course, being the Don Kanoji one. Really glad they actually did that. Here's a little edit actually I did for the Safui video if you haven't already checked it out.
悪い人見つけた観音寺最終奥義キャノンバー
With that said, lads, that was basically the retrospective, I guess, for this particular Spirits Off FFU collaboration. Like I mentioned at the start, the Spirits Off FFU collaboration is still ongoing, but for the most part, it looks like they're going to continue it with the Untold Stories. As far as the novel characters do go, it appears to be done. It appears to be done. Now, there are some characters that we, of course, didn't get in this novel. They technically could have made a new Yumachika. They technically could have made a new Ikkaku. They also could have made a Shikai as the Shiro. And, of course, they could have done a Picaro own unit, solo unit, with their resurrections. They didn't do that. That's perfectly fine. I think what we got is actually really cool. I'm a big fan of the characters, regardless of how they turned out, regardless of the fact that some of them are forgettable. Like I mentioned, Don Kanoji is not even like that great anymore. I don't even use Uryu much. Sure, as the Shiro could have been better. Sure, Kurashiki could have been an actual playable character outside of Brave Bowls. I'm perfectly fine with the way they adapted this novel in the game, and I'm a fan of it. Again, I really do like Spirits Off. You can tell in this video, and you can tell with many other videos that I posted in the past, that I really like this novel, and I feel like KLab didn't disappoint, at least to me. Sure, again, some characters can be better, but in terms of how they were adapted from page to game, I personally am really happy with the outcome. But with that said, that was the video for today. Hope you guys did enjoy it. If you stuck around to the end, I really do appreciate you, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.